This is the Shameless Podcast, and welcome to part 2 of our conversation on the Mind Tech
Second one
Corner.
for me is, I think mining companies don't make mining look sexy. Everyone asks me, "Oh, so you go with a pick and a bucket and a hard hat?" And I'm like, "No, that's not what it is. It's not. It's far from that.
Artisanal mining, maybe?
Maybe artisanal, but
I Googled, I did my research.
When younger generation think of mining, the focus is only on what happens in the pit
yeah, fair.
or in the hole, because that's what mining is associated with,
Yeah.
digging stuff out of the ground. They don't see the other facets of it, and that's where the mining companies do an extremely poor job.
Yeah.
at that.
And I think it's our responsibility as people within the industry also to just really drive this narrative and really drive this conversation, because mining is a dynamic space, and being open to the idea of really contributing to what tomorrow looks like. Within mining, you have that opportunity. You have the opportunity to make the world a better place by doing it in a more responsible and efficient way.
Also, bear in mind that for all of the younger generation especially, you want to be leveraging the latest tech and all of that kind of stuff. But we're not going to be able to take advantage of enjoying any of that without the contribution that mining is actually making. Therein lies the paradox. Okay, so in so much as you think that it's a dirty industry, you're not going to be able to achieve that future vision unless you dirty your hands now.
Sometimes we are afraid to do something. You fear shame. I don't want shame. We're trying to break that burden by sharing stories of courage, resilience, and we want to be able to celebrate your story.
Shameless. Do we have any case studies of mining companies that are actually leveraging technology in their processes, whether it's finding new resources to mine, whether it's how they take their ore that they've mined to market? Like, do we actually have any actual examples of that in the industry?
We do. I mean, almost every one of the large major mining corporations that I've worked with in Africa, also globally, are using tech across the mining value chain. A good example would be BHP Billiton, even Anglo-American here, use autonomous vehicles in their fleet in a massive way. I think the Australian miners got probably the largest fleet of autonomous vehicles in the world. I mean, those mine trucks basically run several hundreds of kilometers from the Pilbara mining region, inland, without a driver in the cab. There's a pilot or a navigator sitting in a control room controlling all of those vehicles. So, there's a massive example. In a prospecting space, as you mentioned, instead of going by trial and error and digging holes all over the place, precision drilling, is enabled by precise technology. You can take all of those data points, and go and drill with a much higher level of confidence. And most of these miners are actually using those types of technologies.
And I would look even just at, there's a company called Cobalt Metals, which is really trying to pride itself in the fact that from an exploration point of view, they're going to be leveraging AI and building models to try to minimize the risk of of doing something that doesn't necessarily add to the value of the operation. And that adding might be, I now have better insight to my model and it's not there, or it is there, or I know how much is there. And so I think within Africa, globally, you've got some companies that are really trying to push the dial into adopting some of these things. And so the cobalt mine is an example. And then if I try to...
That's a Zambian.
The Zambian,
company,
yeah, the company that, well, I think it's American as a sort of a larger entity, but they've identified Zambia as the initial space where they're going to be really going for, and it's absolutely amazing that I think they're trying to be a very non-traditional company.
Yes.
Because they're not necessarily miners on miners on miners. We're going to be in tech, and we're going to leverage tech to the best of our ability to do this mining thing.
Yeah.
And then if I take from that larger scale as an entire company, I've seen examples of relatively smaller spaces where individuals within an organization are really trying to leverage the technology that they have and that is available. So I'll use oil lab sampling. So oil lab sampling is probably one of the most critical parts towards a maintenance regimen. You get to understand what the truck or equipment is experiencing, from steel being present, probably showing signs of some wear or some failures that are occurring. You start to see silica, maybe an ingress of dust coming into the system. And it's almost akin to like taking blood. Mm-hmm. You know, you take blood, you see the different elements, and you say, well, because I'm seeing an elevated X, that suggests that 1, 2, or 3 things. That means I should do 1, 2, or 3 things. Now, oil lab sampling has been there forever. But now what I've seen is you take a photo, you take the mass spectrometer readings, and then you say, across these 10 elements with this image, you then classify. And you classify watch, action, or it's good, no problem. And so some teams actually developed the ability to do 80% of that with 90% confidence, and means that the triology, the lab technician, tribologist only focuses on 20% of the results, because the rest have been classified for them already. Now they are able to go into a lot more detail to say, these 20, I have to now do a lot more, and I can actually intervene with a piece of equipment that before it breaks down and before it has a catastrophic failure. And that's a small and basic example where somebody within their own company is able to have such a large impact to implement something that is, you can run through Python script. Mm-hmm. So you're not trying to go 100%. And that then opens up for smaller mining companies to be able to also participate using technology. And I think those examples are dime a dozen.
And talking on the maintenance use case that you mentioned, I think, if you talk about technology specifically and how it changes the whole approach to maintenance kind of operations. Without technology, a company will always be stuck with a reactive maintenance strategy. Mm-hmm. So you're always going to be waiting for something to happen before you can do something about it. But with all of the tech that we have now, you can do condition-based monitoring, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. You can do predictive-based, maintenance. Mm-hmm. So you can actually know months before something is likely to happen and do something about it. Mm-hmm. Without tech, that's not possible.
Leadership isn't just about making decisions. It's about adapting, inspiring, and leading with confidence in a fast-changing world. At Transformation Leader, we equip you with the skills to master self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and resilience. Lead high-performing teams, navigate workplace dynamics, and drive real impact in your career and business. The future belongs to those who embrace change, future-proof your leadership, and take control of your success. Start your journey today. Sign up now at t4leader.com and become the leader the future demands.
I know, tech is definitely something we can go on and on about because it touches like every single aspect of not only mining, but the world, right?
Yeah.
But what I really liked about both of your comments was when you talked about the people aspect and how, tech can help people keep safe, how it can help in terms of making sure that they can go home alive, it helps them with their job, how they can contribute and all that. But I want to also just talk specifically about people in the resource industry. I feel like the resource industry is akin to the tech industry. There's a big skills shortage, and a lot of younger people are not actually going into the mining industry. Why is that? Why do you think that is? And what can we do to change that narrative to maybe attract, much needed skills so that we can, I can enjoy my phone, my electric car, etc., etc.
I go. So I actually am very passionate about this
Okay.
to some degree. But so the first part is that if people understand the importance of mining, you'll understand the contribution that you're having. Because some people join are a doctor because they know they're going to save lives. And I look at mining, I am contributing to such a critical and fundamental pillar of society that my work and my output means that I am making tomorrow a better version of what it could be. So without people to drive that, then your tomorrow will just not get to that point. The second one for me is I think mining companies don't make mining look sexy. I think everyone asks me, so you go with a pick and a bucket and a hard hat. And I'm like, no, that's not what it is. It's far from that.
Artisanal mining, maybe?
Maybe artisanal, but
I Googled, I did my research.
But I think a lot more could be done, whether it's by university or by companies, to make mining look sexy. And mining is a variety of things. You've got process engineers, chemical, you've got even schools, and they all form part of a mining community. And there's a space for a lot of people within the mining world, and they need a lot of different types of people. They need accountants that are willing to go and work in a space like that. They need, it's endless. It's a mini country if you look at it like that. But I think more creative ways to make it look sexy, to make it be more attractive, to draw people to start to continue enrolling into mining. And yes, a lot of the times people say money, but within the current society that we live in, there has to be a cause associated. There has to be a certain level of convenience associated to that as well. For the younger generations to go, I would rather go with mining over tech, because it's almost a competition of people.
Yes.
Because you've got one person and they're going to have to decide to do one thing. And so you have to be able to entice them to say, these are there, and maybe what used to be the conditions of service in terms of a camp in 1800s look like X, but now because we're trying to attract more people, the camp has to look different. And you have to showcase what that looks like. You have to showcase what all of these things look like for people who are going to go into university, so that they go, you know what, I'm able to impact, but I'm also able to generate money, but I'm also able to live in a way that is fulfilling, even if I go into mining as opposed to going into banking.
You mentioned that mining is very traditional, that you think that it takes a lot for people to change. But when I think of like the younger generation, I think that they want like fast pace, they want exciting, they want to be heard, their ideas to be heard, to when they're going to implement a new technology to be implemented. So I'm hearing that, like, okay, let's make mining look cool. And that kind of sounds like greenwashing, but like the marketing version of mining. Because I'm like, okay, I'm now there. And I'm like, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
But how much cooler is doing a podcast on mining?
It's true what you say. But, I think the point you make is valid to make mining look cool. I think currently when younger generation think of mining, the focus is only on what happens in the pit.
Yeah, fair.
Or in the hole, because that's what mining is associated with,
Yeah.
digging stuff out of the ground. They don't see the other facets of it, and that's where the mining companies do an extremely poor job at it. They don't publicize the fact that, like you said, you need not an ordinary financial accountant to be able to account for the ore and the natural resources and reserve statement, which is a financial statement like a balance sheet, but for commodities. Now, there's a job for a person wearing a finance hat,
Yeah.
but nobody even knows about that. So I can go to university and I can go and study finance, but I can basically specialize in mineral accounting.
Yeah.
Okay, but nobody knows about it, and a younger generation who love maybe finance can be attracted to that kind of work.
Supply chain as well.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
some of the largest complicated distribution logistic spaces within the mining context. I mean, I
Yeah.
completely
So
agree.
I mean, and that was just one example that I gave. You get in the same financial space, because you're dealing with commodities, the whole commodity risk management and trading and all of that kind of, which is an entirely different world. Okay, today if you ask young generation, obviously they love playing the stock market, and they know exactly how to read the candlesticks and all of that, and they tell you where to invest and when not to invest. But all of that happens inside the mining industry, right? But it's just that there's such a narrow focus and what has been exposed that our younger generation don't know anything. And unfortunately, I think we had an earlier conversation that our educational institutions are also doing us a great disservice. Okay. There's still, in the US, they always talk about the dumbing down, of education. In this particular space, I still feel that's where we are. It's been dumbed down to the extent that, mining is just engineering and geology and that's it. It's not. Okay, so educational institutions need to do more. The mining companies need to do a whole lot more. And on top of that, the government needs to also step in and ensure that we can, remedy the situation so that you have a pipeline of graduates or young generation that can fill the vacuum. Average age, of senior people in the energy industry is now in the 50s or in the high 40s. They are 10 years away from retirement, will not be able to fill that vacuum. It's a very, very important subject.
And I think it's our responsibility as people within the industry to just really drive this narrative and really drive this conversation, because we know what it is, and it's about, we know what the problem is, and we say X needs to be resolved, and we just need to drive it, and we need to be more vocal around how we fill that gap and more deliberate about that, because it just won't get solved with expecting somewhere how it's going to eventually just sort itself out, because this is something that requires time to develop. You can't wake up today, be like, I don't have enough people, snap your fingers, and then you've got all enough people. You can repurpose a bunch, but it is always better to have that continuity and that learning upon learning, so that you give each other a bit more. But to talk to the idea of people want a dynamic space and they want to be heard, I don't think necessarily the leadership styles, traditional leadership styles in mining are like that. I think it's very hierarchical, but just like anything, people will have to adapt. You will find that it's hierarchical, and then people aren't there anymore, and then you just have to adjust the way that you do it. I mean, if you need to get more females into the mining industry, then you have to be very deliberate about that. So those are going to be the pulls and pushes that exist, But I do think that the mining industry is a highly dynamic space, a highly agile space, because you've got so many variables, like I said, and that's in accounting, in supply chain, in marketing, in every facet of mining, because you've got potentially so many different things coming at you that it doesn't. You've got the opportunity to be in a space where there are many facets to the same sphere of work that you're doing. Like it has got many legs to it. Like
unfortunately, in countries like Africa, the focus on mining operation is purely on the upstream side of the value chain.
Yeah.
People don't realize that there's a midstream and a downstream part of this value chain as well. We export most of our minerals that are mined here. We don't beneficiate them. We've almost got no beneficiation part of the value chain.
Yeah.
Beneficiation is about manufacturing. Okay, a large part of it has got to do with manufacturing, like a traditional manufacturer, which is, an industry segment on its own.
Mm-hmm.
There's the downstream, side of that, which is retail and sales and marketing. Look at the diamond manufacturers. You walk in the mall, you'll probably get a brown store that's selling diamonds. Where did that diamond come from?
Mm-hmm.
As part of the bigger value chain of the entire mining supply chain. But, people don't have that perception. There's this preconception, as I said, that mining is just about, getting minerals out of the ground. Not seeing the bigger part of the value chain and the opportunities that it actually unlocks for pursuing career in any one of those parts of the value chain.
I also think it's probably impacted negatively by the bed press that mining also
Absolutely.
gets. That's not great, and not that it's maybe warranted, it may not be warranted.
Absolutely.
That's not the fact. Is that
true.
that's really out there. And when you talk, you guys say that mining companies don't necessarily market themselves, and I look at so obviously as a consultant I work with a lot of different types of industries.
Yes.
And when I think of people in the mining industry, I think very hard line and in my day type of being.
But in my day though, but in my day.
Respectfully, I'm not they're great people, lovely people, humble people and all that. But I think of, people who work in traditionally tech, because that's probably who you're trying to compete with. And when I say dynamic, yes, mining is extremely dynamic. I think it's extremely interesting. But you also have to understand that you are competing with, well, if I work in tech, I can just go to the local Starbucks down the road. But if I'm working in mining, unless I'm working in group or head office, there is no Starbucks down the road. So you have to be quite creative in terms of how are you going to genuinely attract the people to come into this.
And in mining, probably that's a constraint that you have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at oil and gas, okay, the downstream space, if I take a fuel retailer, for example, your Cecil service station or any one of those, they need to be so tech savvy because they need to compete with retailers. And retailers are probably the most tech savvy out of all the industries. Because they need to have the finger on the pulse of the customer. Okay. And oil and gas downstream marketers are actually adopting the same mentality as those retailers. I mean, today it's a case of, I'm not going to go to Starbucks to buy my coffee. I'm going to go to the Seattle coffee shop when I fill up my fuel at the Astron service station. So, the opportunities are there, okay? But again, there isn't the awareness amongst the general population of what needs to be done. And I think we are very, important in actually conveying that kind of message.
But then that's, what's interesting about that, because I hadn't actually thought of that. But if we then, within the mining industry, then vertically integrate, so we go further and further down the stream.
Down the stream, yes.
We then learn what is needed, what is happening further down the stream that then we can apply, upstream. So then
Absolutely.
within a space like that, you're then more likely to become more tech savvy, more agile, more creative about how you approach these problems. And so there's the vertical, or you could actually be bringing more people who aren't traditional miners into the mining world. And by doing that, you really just blow the door open to the way that we think, because you have different types of people.
And if I look from a tech space in what we've done, we've had to do that because companies are actually doing exactly what you just said now, vertically integrating. We have mining companies, because of the load shedding regime that we've had to suffer with for so many years, who built their own power generation plants on site and now start generating electricity. Now they become utility companies.
Yes.
Now they need utility tech.
Yes.
We've had to integrate our tech, not only to support mining, but to integrate the whole process so that they can actually generate electricity to power their mines, but also generate or take the excess capacity that generate and pass it onto the grid.
Yeah.
And then in oil and gas space, we had to then take our retail tech and solutions and extend it to the downstream marketing and retailing folks in oil and gas, so they could start operating like a retailer normally operates, and with that mindset.
Yeah.
So the cross-pollination, across industries and across tech, is something that is actually exploding at the moment, where one industry kind of looks at what that other industry is doing, takes best practices from there and starts applying it there. And that's really what needs to happen in mining as well, to break away from this traditional kind of mindset.
But you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Not in mining. Unless you want to be whacked with a shovel.
They're
joking. Come on, Gen Zs and millennials.
No, but the thing is, I think that any strong company has to take this very seriously.
Yeah.
Because you will attract the people that you
look like,
but
we're strict.
If you're giving out this energy,
yeah.
those are the people that will come.
Yeah, exactly.
And if less and less of those exist, then you're going to have to start giving out a different form of energy. And that's the reality of it all. Or you become extinct, or somebody else will start giving that, so that they can be
survive.
They can be different. And they can get the right type of people. And then you're talking about company culture, and they'll be obsolete. So I do believe that if you're not gonna be able to teach that dog the new tricks, then in all honesty, you're gonna have to make very bold decision of putting a structure that then can allow for you to touch on both of those spaces. And just yesterday, we were talking to somebody who was in the manufacturing space, and they brought in one of their younger nephews or nieces or whatever, and they took the marketing portion of the business and they just plastered it over social media. And we'd engaged with them before, and like 5 years ago, and then when you see them today, you're like, whoa, you guys now look hip. You guys look like quite exciting. And it's very different. It's a very different energy that I'm getting from that company just by listening and adopting the thing that was put forward. So if you create the structure, you create that opportunity to listen. Fine, you can be an old dog, you can have your old tricks, which is experience in reality.
That's
then you always you need that.
Yeah.
But you have to be open to having your experiences being challenged. And that's where I'm not old within that industry. And I get that pushback as well that, we've done this before. This is not going to work. And what is this data that you're trying to show me, or why should I input it in this database, which is an Excel form? And they're like,
for those who are listening, Excel is not a database. That's why I was laughing.
There's a joke in the mining industry where, I usually have conversations with customers, and some of the guys, asked them, so, what do you use to capture this kind of data? And they say, no, we have MES systems. MES normally stands for Manufacturing Execution System, which is what these miners use. Historians, data historians, SCADAs, and all of that. So I said, okay, show me. Can you show me what this looks like? And then he opens up a spreadsheet. He says, this is it. I said, well, so what is this? Is this
That is not a historian.
It's Microsoft Excel spreadsheet.
Oh,
That's what MES is.
I got a clap. No, that was well done. They won. So I want to end with a fun segment. So I've talked to
but this was all fun.
Well, like more fun. Okay, more fun. I've talked to Meta AI, and I've asked Meta AI to give me some interesting facts about mining. So as you know, AI can sometimes hallucinate. Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
so I'm gonna use
I can also sometimes hallucinate.
That's
so-
true. But I'm gonna use both your collective experience
All right.
as my fact checker as I spew out some facts.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a good idea, but look.
Viewers at
disclaimers
home
out.
can also just check online if any of these facts are true, and you can leave it in the comments. Alrighty. The oldest known mine is the Nangwenya mine in Swaziland, which dates back to 43,000 BC. True or false?
I'm gonna go with false.
Okay.
I don't believe that.
You're like already like no.
Nah, Swaziland. I don't know. I just
You-
Yeah, no,
also-
I also don't believe that.
So where would you say would be the oldest then? If you guys are saying this is false, where would it be?
I believe there were other, mines. I'm thinking more. Would I
Like
say
South America.
around South America?
South America.
Okay, maybe Turkey. You know they have those underground caves. Maybe.
I do. I don't know Turkey to be a mining
Yeah,
destination, but
I'm not gonna go with Turkey.
Okay, we're not doing
I'm not gonna
Turkey,
go
but
with
we're saying
Turkey.
South America somewhere.
I'm gonna go with South
I
America
wouldn't go with
personally.
Swaziland.
So
I mean, what about maybe, like Egypt, Ghana?
I'm thinking of Mesopotamia.
Okay,
ancient
all right.
history.
Okay.
So I could agree with that
So-
one. Yes,
Okay,
and when you see like pharaohs and them being buried
Exactly.
Yeah,
with
so you're
gold
like,
and the rest of it,
it
so
must
they were
be.
doing
I would
some
be
extraction.
leaning towards that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
all
what
right.
I'm going with.
Next one.
And I'd love to see a comment that corrects me. And that first Swazi miner, like a photo of that. Oh, not in 18 BC. Okay,
No,
never mind.
43,000.
Yeah, okay, fine. There's
Okay.
no photo there.
Yeah. Mining is a significant contributor to the global economy, with the industry valued at over $1 trillion annually. True or false?
I'm gonna say false,
Okay.
but for different reason to what you might think.
Okay.
I believe false because I think that it's more than $1 trillion.
Okay.
I think that there's a lot of mining that happens that's not part of the standard markets, the standard systems, and whether that is artisanal or gold mafia type things. I think there's a lot more mining that happens in an artisanal space. And that's where a lot of opportunities also lie, but also a lot of minerals get developed as well. So I go that $1 trillion is probably a conservative number,
Okay.
and the number is probably
Yeah.
a bit higher up.
Okay. The deepest mine in the world is the Imponeng. Please don't come for me on the
They're coming
comments,
for you.
guys.
They're coming for you.
Gold mine in South Africa, which reaches depths of 4 kilometers.
I've been
I'm
down
looking
that
at you.
shaft. I've been down that shaft,
Okay.
4.3 kilometers.
Oh wow!
Imponeng.
So it's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's
yeah.
wrong.
The aim is it's wrong.
And I have a certificate.
Oh wow! You get a certificate if you go down there.
Yeah, we were privileged to be taken down there, and we were given an ore sample. Of course, I can't get the gold out of it, unfortunately. But
That's really cool.
certifying the depth.
And maybe a question to that: being 4 kilometers, 4.3 kilometers underground, how scary is that?
Well, first it takes you a long time to get to that depth. It takes you about an hour and a half to get down to that depth.
Wow. So what? You're just standing there
In the elevator.
for an hour and a half.
Before you get
And
to work. And then an hour and a half to get back up again. So
was it worth it?
And
So
it was my first time.
Okay.
So it was an experience, but extremely harsh temperatures. They are ventilated, but I mean not air conditioned offices.
Millennials,
So
Gen
very
Zs.
harsh environment.
But that's in my mind, it's an engineering feat. Like
Yeah.
the idea that you
Absolutely.
can go down 4.5 kilometers.
Like, how
But-
deep is the Earth's crust? I'm trying to remember my
No,
geography.
you know what?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay, we're not there yet. Okay.
No, we
We're not. Okay.
Literally
We're
just
very far.
yeah.
Okay, last one. The largest mining truck in the world is the Bell AD 75710, which has a payload capacity of 450 tons.
Bahaz. It must be Bahaz.
Okay. Maybe that's
It's not Bell. It's not a Bell truck.
It's
I can tell you that.
BELA. Okay.
Bahaz.
Okay.
400 and?
50 tons.
No.
I think
You're saying no.
I
What? So
would
is everything
probably-
wrong on
I,
this?
I think Get
Has the largest capacity.
Get has a truck with larger capacity.
Oh my
than that.
word. Can I please
I
get
don't
like
know Bell as a company, but
Okay, I'm gonna actually give you one more, and I'm gonna hope this one is right, so I can at least say Meta gave me correct
I
data.
want to just throw something out there.
Okay.
Is that I once went to an expo and I saw a truck with 18 tires. And then I realized, you know what? There might be people out there doing other things that I don't know. and this is like a large truck. And one of the selling points was, if you lose a tire, it's okay. You can still carry on. And I'm like, okay, this is definitely like, these are other people doing other types of work. So I think that either the other guys might have, but if that exists, it might not be per se the best.
Okay. Please let this be right, but because I don't have any more, so I'm just hoping that this. I think even if this one is wrong, just say it's correct.
No, but
so that I can close.
Oh, so it's been wrong.
close-
All of them have been lies.
Well, you said that the deepest was 4.3, not 4. So I just feel like
Yeah.
could we say rounding error? No,
No.
because it was today.
It's a lie. It's a wrong.
Yeah, okay. So the world's largest open pit mine is the one in Utah, USA, which covers 9 square kilometers.
The one you can see from space.
So it's true?
I
yeah,
so,
I
yes,
would go
yes.
with that.
Oh,
That one, yes.
yay! We got
That one, yes.
1 out of 5. So this is just a reminder to everyone at home that you need to fact check your AI. I had some experienced guys here, so that was great.
Mind you, we also could have been hallucinating,
Yeah.
so people might need to fact
I
check
would
us.
have used Claude AI to check with Meta.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your
Thank you,
time,
Nona.
gentlemen.
Thank you, Dee, as
Do you
well.
have any last words? And I mean, very few words, not even a sentence, that you'd like to leave viewers at home, younger viewers who might want to actually get into the mining industry? What advice can you give them?
I think mining is a dynamic space, and being open to the idea of really contributing to what tomorrow looks like. Within mining, you have that opportunity. You have the opportunity to make the world a better place by doing it in a more responsible and efficient way. So I think that's what draws me to mining. That's why I'm in mining, because I think I can actually make an impact to the way that we form that foundational pillar of what beds society. So that's my 2 cents. And it was more than a sentence.
Yeah, so I'm not going to greenwash.
Oh! Ouch!
What I am going to say, though, no offense. What I am going to say is that mining is an exciting industry. But ultimately, any industry, regardless whether it's mining or retail or finance or whatever you want to call it, is what you make of it. You can make it, as interesting as you want it to be, or you can, absolutely hate it. Okay, if you ignore all of the other, aspects. Also bear in mind that for all of the younger generation especially, you want to be leveraging the latest tech and all of that kind of stuff. But we're not going to be able to take advantage of enjoying any of that without the contribution that mining is actually making. So and therein lies the paradox. Okay, to make sure that we can sustain, and set up this future we envisage we'll be flying around in drones, and not navigating the horrendous traffic on our roads and all of that kind of stuff. We're going to need the metals that we need to actually mine here today. So in so much as you think that it's a dirty industry, you're not going to be able to achieve that future vision unless you dirty your hands now.
Done.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I absolutely enjoyed this session.
And I did too. Thank you so much.
No worries.
This podcast is brought to you by Transformation Leader. You can follow us at www.t4leader.com.